South Africa will go to COP21 looking for an agreement to help developing nations deal with climate change.
A lot of what needs to come out of this is actually the international equity dimension, and that's why there's a lot of focus on finance. And so our contribution, as it's called, the intended nationally determined contribution, puts a heavy emphasis on adaptation and the costs of adaptation.
South Africa and many other African countries have already taken steps to reduce carbon emissions, but have not been able to adapt to changing climate patterns.
A lot of people know about mitigating the effects of climate change, lessening the effects, things like using renewables. But what do we do when we want to, or we have to, actually start adapting? So if we knew that drought conditions are going to continue, how do we adapt to water scarcity in places like Johannesburg?
Global temperatures are hitting record highs every year. Experts warn of dire consequences for Africa in particular.
With 2 degrees of average global warming, most of the interior of southern Africa will experience double that. That means a lot more evaporation, a lot of things that you can't grow, livestock not being a viable industry without air conditioning in a lot of situations, and southern African countries can't afford air conditioning for their livestock.
Southern Africa is already feeling the effects of climate change, with severe drought conditions gripping the region. While tackling climate change is crucial, it's also unaffordable for many African governments.
In addressing inequality and poverty, there's a big question of where to put resources first. And a lot of the trade-offs of climate change are actually between short-term and long-term. So things that we know we need to be doing, but can we afford to do them now when our immediate priority might be addressing energy poverty?
As part of the Africa Group, South Africa will lobby the COP21 gathering to agree on finding more aggressive ways in reducing emissions in order to keep the global temperature below 2 degrees. It's also hoped that the developed world will stick to their commitment in assisting the developing countries with the finance in order to adapt to climate change. The World Bank estimates that up to $10 billion a year may be needed to help Africa become more effective in reducing emissions. Sumitra Nydoo, CCTV, Johannesburg.